All right, now you might be given an equation that looks like this, where you have a radical on both sides of the equation. So how is it that we would go about solving that if we have any radical on both sides? Well, the whole reason that we're able to solve radical equations, any equation that has a radical in it, comes back to this idea that if two things are equal to each other, right? If A is equal to B, A is the same thing as B, they're the same number, same whatever. Well, then A, if you square A, you would also have to square B in order for them to remain equal, right? So what you can do to go about solving this is just square both sides of the equation. You just square both sides first, and then you can just go about solving it from there. So because you've created an equivalent equation, it's proportional. So that cancels out your radical. That's the only difference. You square both sides first and then go ahead and solve it from there. That gives me 3x plus 1 is equal to 4x minus 7. And now, just like you've ever solved any equation, you're going to collect your variables on one side and your constants on the other. So I'm going to start by moving my variable. I'm going to go here. So if I subtract 4x from both sides, I'm left with negative 1x plus 1 is equal to, this cancels out, a negative 7. Now I'm trying to get that x by itself, so I'll subtract 1 from both sides. I'm left with negative 1x is equal to negative 8. And then I divide both sides by a negative 1. You're left with x equals a positive 8. It's always a good idea to check your answer. I'm going to show you why in the next video, but you would just check that and say, does that work for both sides of my original equation? So 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 4 times 8 is 32, minus 7 is 25. Square root of 25 equals the square root of 25, so we're good on that one. Okay? Now, the last example of something different that you might see is, well, what do I do if they give me a cubed root? Well, this still stands. If you have something that's equal to something, if you cube one side and you cube the other, you're going to end up with an equivalent equation. So all you would do here is everything exactly the same. You just cube both sides instead of squaring it, right? Because the cubed root, cubed, cancels itself out. So I'm left with 3x plus 7 equals 10 cubed, or 10 to the third power is 1,000. And now just solve for that x. So I'll subtract 7 from both sides. And when you do that, you're left with 3x equals 993. And then you divide both sides by 3, you get x equals 331 as your final answer.